you've been hurt, so you're kind of like in that mindset of like, I don't need friends. It's kind of like those guys who get like their heart broken by a girl in high school and then they live the rest of their life like, women suck, I don't need a girlfriend. It's like, it's okay to have these hurts. It's okay. It's just you have to deal with it so you can move forward and not just live your life like being hostile and like hating people who didn't even do anything for you. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I run the blog called Mrs. Midwest. Today we are going to be doing the topic that I've avoided for a long time. I don't know why, I just like wasn't feeling it for a while, but today I am feeling it. And that is how to make friends as an adult. How to become a social butterfly. How did I make friends as an adult? What are my best tips for building a crew? And how do we do that? Like, after university, after high school, when we're all working or moms, like how did I do it? So for a little backstory, I am like a certified girls girl. I love hanging out with women. I love having friends. When I grew up in Canada, I had the same friends for 18 years. So I met them in church nursery. I still remember meeting my best friend. We were in the church nursery, maybe 3 or 4 years old, maybe even 2.5 years old. We met. It was perfect. We rode the same bus. We did all the same stuff. We had a little crew and we went to kindergarten, elementary school, high school together. And then when I went to college, I had to make new friends. And I made a couple good friends. I made a couple bad friends. I went through a crazy life change and I lost friends. And then when I was married, I basically had no friends. When you guys met me on YouTube, I had like 2 friends that like in the area that I saw regularly. I still had my friends from Canada, but I was an immigrant to a new country, a new wife, especially when I became a housewife. I didn't have housewife friends. I wasn't a mom, so I didn't have mom friends. And basically what happened was your girl didn't have friends. I had online friends through you guys. I had friends from my past. But when I got pregnant with my oldest, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't want my child to not have like family friends. Family friends are really important to me because I think like your community is more than just like blood family. I think your community really can impact the life of a child. And I wanted my child to not have this like antisocial hermit mom. So I went out of my way to make friends and it was really hard work. And you might have noticed I disappeared a bit. Like I just became way less regular on YouTube with momming, but also I put a lot more effort into my IRL, like in real life. And it worked. I have friends now and it's been like 4-ish years of having friends. The friendships have only gotten deeper. I've added new friends even in the last year. And so I'm going to go over how I did it, how I would encourage other people to do it, and just some like little nuggets of wisdom I've learned, some encouragement, some warnings even. So we're going to dive into that, but that's the backstory. I had the same friends forever. I had good friends, bad friends in university. Then I had no friends, and now I have great friends again. And I also still have those friends that I grew up with. I'm actually going to one of their weddings in a couple weeks. So all that to say, I love making friends. I am not the kind of person that thinks we all need to be a lone wolf and everyone's out to get you and there's just a bunch of haters in the world. And I think sometimes people can have a bad experience with friends and it causes them to put their guard up and then maybe they're like anti-making friends at all. I can say as a person who's had bad toxic friendships, people who talk behind my back. When I started my YouTube channel and Instagram, like they all unfollowed me and like talked about me behind my back. Like it was rough, man. Oh, that hurt. I don't even like thinking about it. It hurt. And I guess I became a little bit like that. I was like, I'll just be online and I'll have YouTube friends. But no, my kids don't benefit from YouTube friends. They benefit from my in real life friends and their kids. So I got back on the horse and made real life friends. And I think that would be the first thing I want to cover in this video is to make friends as an adult. You need to wipe the slate clean. So if you've encountered bullying, if you've encountered toxic friends, if you've encountered betrayal, I know it's so hard. I've been there, but you cannot bring that with you into the future, into your future friendships. That baggage, like, you need to deal with it. You need to deal with the forgiveness, the resentment, the therapy, the journaling, the prayer, whatever you need to do to deal with it. Because that stuff can hang over you as much as like romantic exes can hang over you in your next romantic relationship. I think friendship baggage is a real thing, and a lot of us have been really hurt by other women. Like I have been hurt by other women, like hardcore. But I've never like let that stop me fully from seeking out new friends, seeking out people who won't hurt me, to not just view women as a whole as like a negative thing. And I think a lot of women who struggle making friends with other women, a lot of times maybe there's like a source for that. Like growing up in school, there was like a group of girls that they weren't included in, or like a friend who betrayed them, or they just always felt like a fish out of water. I can relate to that. I feel like a fish out of water a lot. There's not a lot of people in my hometown who do life like us. Like I'm surrounded by a lot of like crunchy homesteading people, or like working moms. I'm very different from a lot of these people, but I still found friends. Like I still found my people. I still found people who accepted me. And a lot of that included like dealing with my baggage and not being so paranoid going into friendships, but also taking the lessons that I learned from those negative experiences and like keeping an eye out, right? So like, for example, I met somebody one time through a bunch of moms, and I just like had a bad vibe. And it served me well because that person turned out to be really like drama, toxic, like causing a lot of problems with other moms who had made friends with her. And I wouldn't have known if I didn't go through hard things with friends. So I think reframing your past with friendships can be really helpful, because you're like, instead of just viewing it as all this negative stuff, like you can view it as lessons to learn. And also, you know, what did you contribute maybe to those friendship breakups or friendship drama? You know, sometimes it really is all one-sided, but other times it's like we contributed to the drama. Maybe we didn't communicate ourselves well enough, or maybe we didn't stick up for ourselves or our friend or whatever, you know. So I would say, first of all, before you go charging into making friends, figure out where you're at, like even with just the concept of women, of the concept of a female friend, and grapple with it and think about it and try to like come to a place where you're ready and open. It is literally the same thing as like dating. Like you shouldn't go out into the dating world with like this super jaded mindset while also trying to find a boyfriend. Like you have to be ready for these steps. You have to be open on some level to these relationships. Which brings me to like the first, I guess after that first concept of dealing with your baggage, my first really big piece of advice that I've been saying a lot on my channel, and you're gonna know what I'm gonna say, is give people a chance. Give people a chance, even if they are different from you. I think a lot of people have this idealized vision of friends in their head where like you all believe the same stuff spiritually, you all believe the same stuff about politics, you all believe the same stuff about the world, you all believe the same stuff about child rearing, you all birth the same, and you can just get in your little group and talk about all the things that, you know, you're interested in and that you think is the way the world should live. Friendship is about loving other human beings and supporting other human beings. And that means we can make friends with people of a wide variety of interests and backgrounds, because you actually, what I have learned is you actually don't need a ton in common in order to be friends with somebody. You just have to mutually like each other. You have to mutually want to support each other, and you have to mutually feel comfortable around each other. And the crazy thing is, you can actually like, enjoy, feel safe, feel comfortable around somebody who is nothing like you. That's what I actually love about friendship, because it's not a husband. You're not rearing children with these people. You're not building a 60-year-long marriage or lifetime. So we can be a little more loosey-goosey with some of this compatibility stuff. Now, The caveat I will say is Proverbs is chock full of warnings about who you keep as friends. So we do want to avoid the betrayers, the backstabbers, the fools, the people who live a horrible hedonistic lifestyle and they're dragging us down with them. Oftentimes people say like we're the sum of our friendships. The people who we go to for support and advice should be people who are honorable and worthy and whatever. And I totally agree with that. But I also think something that we need to keep in mind is there's best friends, there's friends, there's acquaintances, there's people you're friendly with, there's lifelong companion best friends. There's lots of levels to this. So with that being said, when I'm saying being a social butterfly and making friends, I'm not making a video on how to make a best friend. How to make a best friend is very different from how to make a friend. How to make a best friend includes many hours of spending time together. It includes a lot of compatibilities, a lot of trust, a lot of respect. It's almost up there with how to find a husband, right? That's a different topic. How to make friends is very different from how to have a best friend. A best friend is somebody you would go to for advice on almost anything in your life. You trust them, you respect them, like ride or die. How to make a friend is someone that you can spend time with. You can bring your kids around them or their kids. You can call them if you need something. You can go hang out, girls' night, coffee shop, groceries together. It's not that serious. And maybe you know what's going on in each other's lives, advice here and there, but it's not a best friend. And I think we've really kind of forgotten how important it is to have just friends. We don't have to turn every single girl we like and hang out with into our best friend in order to make that friendship valuable. I have a lot of friends and I love that because I love all these different people, and because I put in the effort to be their friend, I get to have all these different people to spend time with, all these different stories and things to talk about, and people who support us. And they're all very different people. And they're not my best friends. I have like one or two best friends, but my friends are still very meaningful to me. They pray for me. I pray for them. I keep them abreast in life. But it's a lot less effort than, for example, a best friend. So when I'm talking about making friends, I'm talking about a step above acquaintance, but below best friend. So a friend is someone that you would spend time with one-on-one. You'd spend time with them in a group. You're going out of your way. You're not just seeing them through forced interactions like church or work or school. You're spending time outside of church, work, and school. And so in order to make a friend, you have to start there. You have to bring the person from the church, work, or school, or wherever you met them to the second location. Now I sound like I'm talking about like a murderer, but I'm not. I'm talking about taking them to a second location. That's kind of what you do in dating. So you get the person, you get them from the place you met, like the gym or the mom's group or whatever, and you bring them to the second location, which would be having them over to your house for a play date, or meeting up at a coffee shop, going for a walk all together, going to an event together. So that second location, that's where we're going to start building memories. Now, getting to know people and making friends and getting to them to that second location, you're probably wondering, well, what was the first location? How did you find these people? And I'm going to quickly run through where to find friends. This is going to be highly dependent on where you live. It's going to be highly dependent on your country, your age, your season of life. So I'm going to throw out a lot of ideas and also how I made my friends. So my first way I made friends was church. A lot of people in our stage of life. And how did I meet them? I saw people around my age, or if we were ever interacting over the same thing, like we're both dropping our kids off at the classroom for children's church. I turned to the girl next to me who's also dropping her kid off, and I'm like, oh, they're so cute when they run into the classroom. And then she goes, yeah, they are. And then I chit-chat a little bit more, and she chit-chats a little bit more, and then I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm Caitlin. What's your name? And then she says her name. And then we start talking as we go back to the sanctuary, and we're like, oh, so where are you from? I'm very good at this. I'm very good at like snatching somebody and like getting in there. I think if I was a man, I would have been good at pursuing, because I'm good at that. Like, and that's like, I think where a lot of people aren't willing to put the effort in because they're too shy or they're scared or whatever. But what you have to tell yourself is like, just because you talk to somebody doesn't mean you're automatically best friends. It doesn't mean you're automatically spending time together. It could be a one-time interaction, which I have that all the time. But it gets the ball rolling. And if you see someone who you're kind of interested in, pursue. Like, I sound like I'm talking to men about dating, but the same advice kind of goes, and it's not that serious. I also stand by the thing I said in one of my last, like 4 or 5 years ago, videos on conversations. You can talk to anybody. You can talk to anybody because you can talk to anybody about anything. Everyone lives somewhere. Everyone came to where you are from somewhere. Everyone is at the place you're at, like church or the gym or whatever, for a reason. Everyone has a story. Everyone can talk about the weather. Everyone can talk about the changing seasons. Everyone can talk about anything, vacation, work, whatever. That's surface level stuff. And again, another thing I've seen floating around that I really disagree with is like, oh, I just want to talk about deep stuff. Like, I hate small talk. You can't start a conversation or a friendship by asking them, oh, what's your childhood trauma? Or what's the meaning of life? Or what do you think about the resurrection of Jesus? Like, you can't. You have to save that stuff for when you build up trust and respect. But so many people are lazy and selfish, and they don't want to build up the trust and respect. That's what you have to do when you're pursuing a new friend. You have to build up the trust and respect. They have to get to know you. You have to get to know them. And honestly, maybe during that time, you'll find some stuff where you're like, oh, I actually don't want to tell you like my deep, dark secrets. Like, I'm just cool keeping you as a friend or an acquaintance. That's what that like dating your friends period is for. So for example, dropping the kid off at church next to the mom, I kind of like chit chat with her. And then we take it to the next level. Hey, can I get your number? Hey, what's your social media? Oh, do you ever go to the mom's group? Maybe I'll see you there. Like reference how you'll see her again. If it's like a regular meeting thing. If you're probably not going to see her again, grab her number. Again, I feel like I'm talking to men on how to date. Men, if you're watching this, take this advice on how to date women because it's pretty much the same thing. So if you know you're going to see her again, just reference the next time you're going to see her. If you know you're not, grab her number or a second way to contact, and then be pretty fast with that. Like later in the day, like, hey, by the way, this is my number. Then the ball is still in your court. Once you do that, then it's on you to like come up with a creative way to see. And this is easier with moms, but you can also do this with before you're a mom. I did this. It's what you say is, oh, hey, I'm popping by the coffee shop this Wednesday evening or Wednesday morning. Do you want to come? Or, hey, I'm going for a walk in town on Thursday afternoon. Do you want to come? And you just kind of take it from there. So you find the second location. Hopefully they say yes, especially if they want friends too, they'll say yes. And then you spend time. And then from there, you're off to the races. You just have to spend time together. I have friends who like, we don't necessarily click. Like sometimes I'm like, do you even understand my sense of humor? But these people mean the world to me because I've spent so much time with them. They're like family and like they accept me and they love me, which brings me to a second kind of point in this area. When you're getting to know a new friend is the time where you're going to start to sense how comfortable you are being yourself around that person. And I would really recommend if you're ever with or trying to make a friend who just makes you feel agitated or uncomfortable or like you can't be yourself, or they make like snide little comments like, oh, you're pretty excited, stuff like that. I usually pull the plug on those kind of friendships because it's too exhausting. It's going to lead to me feeling cruddy about myself because they don't accept me, right? And so understand, like, you can have differences, like maybe she's quiet and you're loud, but she has to accept that you're loud and you have to accept that she's quiet. Like, don't make people have to change themselves in order to hang out with you, and don't change yourself in order to hang out with other people. I have encountered people who I'm like, I think she could be my friend, but then we're in a group conversation and they'll say something totally crazy like, oh, you have 2 boys? I would think that you would like really want a girl. You just seem girly like that. And I'm like, yeah, totally. And then I'm like kind of nice about it, but then mental note, not friend material. Like, to be friend material to me, you have to like be into my thing, right? My thing, you can kind of sense it from right when you get to know me. I'm a social butterfly. I'm interested, curious, a little enthusiastic. I like to tell a story. I have big feelings. And if that's not for you, thank you for sarcastically letting me know, because pull back, you're not friend material. And you know what? I don't think I'm friend material for everybody either. There are people who just do not like me. They don't like what I got going on and they stay away. And I even see that online. There's people who just like cannot stand the sound of my voice. They cannot stand the way I talk, like what I like to talk about, the way I look. That's okay. And that leads me to another kind of subgenre in the idea of making friends. Go into it with not with the total self-shaming vibe of no one likes me, no one wants to be my friend. But have enough self-awareness to be like, not everyone has to like me, not everyone has to be my friend. Because I think sometimes people are like, well, why doesn't she like me? And then they like go on this weird journey of trying to win somebody over. I used to be like that back in the day when I wanted everyone to like me, like more in like university days. And I was super hard on myself because I was a perfectionist and I was like chasing the approval of people in order to get them to like me. Low self-esteem. It would really bother me if somebody didn't like me because I'm like, why? I'm trying to be perfect. Why don't you like me? Why don't you like what I'm putting out? But now I've accepted a lot of people, or some people won't like me, and they're fully entitled to that. And I don't like being around everybody. You know, we can love people as Christians, but it doesn't mean I want to like hang out with you multiple times a week. Like, you know, we just don't click. And that's okay. And I think having that more like humble mindset also helps you when you're making friends, instead of like tracking down and pursuing all the people who don't seem to click with you or want to be around you just to prove something. You're spending your effort and time pursuing people who do like you. Which again brings me to my next point, which is when you're pursuing friends, try to pursue friends who want friends and who need friends. I encountered this hardcore when I moved to a very small town. Again, new wife, didn't know anybody. It's the type of town where you meet people and they're like, oh, so did you grow up here? And if you're like, no, I'm from like Canada, they'll be like, oh, how did you end up here? And you're like, so you really view this town as like a total secret, and in order to figure it out, you'd have to like marry somebody who lives here. So that was the vibe. It was very much like an in-group, which I think is kind of why I gave up trying to make friends like pretty fast and just focused on YouTube, because it was so hard. Because everybody here, not everybody, but most people, like their best friend is their mom or their sister or their cousin, and on Sundays they all hang out with their mom, sister, and cousins, and they don't have time for friends, or they have all their childhood friends. And quite honestly, like if I still lived where I grew up, I would be hanging out with my childhood friends. So I do have grace and I understand why that happens. But my strategy to overcome that is to find people who are also new, find people who are also transplants. I did that in college too. Like most of my friends were not from the state the college was in. Like they weren't from Michigan. I'm from Canada. A lot of my friends were like from California or Colorado, other countries, even Nigeria, Kenya. Like I didn't limit myself to the locals because the locals had their local friends. And if you're a local, this is just like a little PSA, like be open to non-locals. One of my best friends who I've made in the past couple of years did grow up here, and she has friends and family here, but she has an open heart and included me into her social circle. And through her, I met a lot of people too. So if you can, it's often amazing to leverage like a local person. If you find a local person, especially if you're in a small town, who wants to be your friend, that's worth more than gold, because they have a ton of friends and family who you can then get to know through them. But if that's not working, I also think it's great to meet transplants and people who also need friends. How do you find those people? It's like, oh, where are you from? And they're not from here? Perfect. Let's be friends. I also think when you're meeting people, it's super easy to just kind of box yourself in and be like, oh, she's my age, she's friend material. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but like I think it's great sometimes to go a lot younger or a lot older too. So for example, my cousin just married like this super awesome girl, and she's a lot younger than me, and we're not in the same life stage, but like I love this girl and like we have a lot in common, and I didn't let like our age or the fact that she doesn't have kids yet like get in the way. I'm like, we click, we're friends. I also have friends like 10 years older than me, like, or in their 40s. Like it doesn't matter, like you're my friend now. I think not boxing yourself in by things like age or life season can help open up your friendships a lot. But again, the biggest thing is that you feel comfortable around them. So yes, meeting friends through other kids. I'm working on a friendship right now. I'll let you guys in on this. Our kids started a preschool. It's just twice a week for 2 hours, nothing crazy. But I met a mom at like this kids event. That was like a one-time thing. But I saw her and I was like, curious. I'm like, you look young and I've never seen you before. So I like sat down at her table when we were at this kids event and just started talking to her. And I figured out, ooh, you live in my town. Ooh, you're new to the area. Check, check, check. Oh, you're like looking to make new friends too. Check. And then I'm like, perfect. I'll grab your number and like off to the races, you know? So often too, I think it's about just being open-minded and like being open to the possibilities. So like maybe not in the grocery store are you going to like scoop up a friend, but someplace you go regularly, like the gym, or even like a coffee shop, you know, you can get to know people. A lot of it though, it's like leaving the house. A lot of it is getting involved with events. I really was just a homebody after Bodhi was born, and when I was pregnant with Troy, I was really nervous to leave the house and stuff, but I got invited to this like mom's breakfast through my local friend. And I didn't want to go, and I had all this anxiety, and my husband was like, just go, just even go for like 45 minutes, like, and then say like the baby needs to nap and go home, but just go. And he really encouraged me. And it was the best advice ever, because that event was the time I met my friend Maggie. She was in my last vlog. You guys will know her. She's one of my best friends. I can tell anything to her. I showed her the book, The Empowered Wife, and we do that together. She showed me a million like podcasts and books. And it was such a life-giving thing, but I never would have met her if I didn't take my husband's advice to put myself out there. And so it's kind of the same as like girls who are interested in meeting a guy and dating. Like you have to put yourself out there. You have to try. And it might be like rocky at times. Like I've put myself out there with girls and friendships and I'm like, oh wait, like this isn't going anywhere, or this person like hung out with me one time and like they're just not that into it, or they don't need a friend. And it feels like a little embarrassing kind of, because you're like, you feel a little desperate. But again, I think it's important to be soft on yourself when you're in this like stage of trying to make friends, and just realize like that's a vulnerable thing, and good for you. Like instead of just backing off and putting up walls because that's easier, you're putting yourself out there. Like give yourself a pat on the back. And if you're not going to, I'm going to give you a pat on the back, because it's not easy to pursue friendships, especially with people who maybe close it off to you, and then you put yourself out there and now you feel awkward and uncomfortable. It happens to the best of us. So I think it's important to accept that sometimes you won't click and know when to call it. I've had friendships where it's like I was kind of on the road to becoming friends, like we were hanging out one-on-one and stuff, but then I was just like, no, I don't feel right about this. Like, you're not a bad person, it's just I don't like how this friendship is developing. And so I basically just kind of pulled back, and I didn't really like initiate any one-on-ones, and then they didn't initiate any one-on-ones. But when we see each other in passing, like it's not awkward, it's not uncomfortable, it's just, you know, that friendship had its life cycle kind of. And so that can happen too. Pay really close attention. I think the biggest indicator is, how do you feel after you hang out with these people? I had some friends in high school or college where I just felt like garbage about myself after hanging out with them. Like they were the kind of friends, like if you were to try to do a diet because you felt unhealthy and you were trying to get fit, like she'd try to sabotage it, or like draw a lot of attention to it at the group table, like in university, like, oh, you're eating sugar-free again, and you're like, yes. I think like friends don't need to support everything you do, but if what you're doing isn't like hurting other people, it's nice when they do support you. So look for people who uplift you, who encourage you. And again, they don't need to be following after you, like, you know, waving palm leaves and celebrating you like you're the return of like the king. But they should, on a base level, like act like they like you and be interested in your life and be interested in what you're up to, and be like on some level a listener. Which brings me to the idea I want to really drill down in this video, is that when you're seeking friends, your desire to be a friend should be stronger than your desire to have a friend. What I mean by that is the same thing as people who say some men just want a wife and a child, but they don't want to be a husband and a dad. And the idea of that is like a lot of men like want a wife to like sleep in their bed and live with them and listen to them and clean up after them and cook for them, or they want a kid to like do baseball with them and all this stuff, but they don't want to do the work. Like they don't want to be a husband, which being a husband's hard, you know, provide for a family and support and be there for your wife and all this stuff. And they don't want to be a dad, like change the diapers, be involved, do the discipline and like the fun times and read the books and all of that. The same thing applies to friendship. Don't just come from a mindset where you want a friend, Come from a mindset where you want to be a friend. So that means when you meet people and you're trying to like build a friendship, try to be a friend to them. So see what's going on in their life. See how you can bless them. Do they just need time out of the house? Do they need somebody to listen? Do they just want to have fun with people? And like they want to go to fun stuff like the beach or an amusement park, but they have no one to go with. Like you can be a friend in that way. Do they want someone to do cute activities with, like run errands? Do they want help with anything? Being a friend is very different than wanting to have friends. Having friends who listen to you and blah, blah, blah. But the cool thing is when you are a friend, when you're being a friend to the right people, they will reciprocate that. And now I have people to do fun things with. I have people to listen to me. I have people who are praying for me. I have people to, when my husband got into that accident, we were flooded with help and meals and food and support. And that's because we are a friend. And so what does it mean to be a friend? It means, yeah, not to be a chameleon where you're just transforming into whatever that person wants, but it means learning about the person, being genuinely curious about them, remembering things. This is big, guys. Don't be selfish. Don't be lazy. Remember things about your friends. Don't keep asking them over and over, oh yeah, where did you grow up? That makes people feel like, oh, you really don't listen to me. You don't care. Like there's forgetting and then there's not even trying to remember. That's like something I'm actually passionate about. And I think it's why I'm able to maintain so many friendships. It's because when you spend time with me, I will work on remembering everything you tell me and I will ask about it later. And that's how you form that, like, that trust, that respect, that back and forth camaraderie, support. Also, I'm not a perfect friend. I think what I struggle with is the part of friendship that is the cool part is like, we're running and making a memory. We're playing a prank together. We're doing a silly, like, that stuff doesn't come easy to me. Playing a prank or doing a color run together. Like, I struggle with that. But if you want someone to listen, if you want someone to remember, if you want advice, if you want to debate, talk, go anywhere, do anything, I'm your girl. That other stuff is harder for me. So I'm not saying like I'm this perfect friend or that this comes so easy to me. I'm just saying I put a lot of effort into it. And part of putting in the effort to be a friend is remembering things about people. I had an abdominal surgery in the summer. And like I mentioned it to a few friends and I could not believe the day of my surgery, I had like 3 or 4 friends text me and they were like, hey, I'm praying for you. They remembered not just that I was having it, they remembered the day. I felt so loved and like I should feel loved. That's so loving to do. So try to do that for your friends. Like we have all this modern technology, like use it. I use it. Use your notes app if you really need to like keep track of things. Use your calendar for your other friends' events or to text. Even just tossing out, I do this a lot, just tossing out a text. And if I haven't seen you in like 7-ish days or whatever, I'll toss out a text. Hey, how are you doing? Or not too vague, or how's this thing going? All my pregnant friends, I'm like, hey, how's baby doing? Kicking good? How are you sleeping? What can I pray for you? Want to hang out? You know, that type of stuff, just touching base, checking in. This also goes for long distance friendships. I've pulled back from some of my long distance friendships to put more effort into my close distance friendships, but long distance friendships too I think are very important because you can maintain support even from a distance, like updating each other, texting, FaceTime, letting them know what you're going through, calling them. Something I love about a long distance friend is like you can tell them anything, like because they're at a distance, they're not like in your day-to-day life, like they can be a great sounding board too. So I really think especially if you're having a hard time making in real life friends, don't limit yourself. Long distance friends are a thing. Like I love a long distance friend. I have a bunch of long distance friends I've made through YouTube. And I love like telling myself in the mirror, like one day you're going to go to France and hang out with Gretchen in real life. Or you're going to go to Japan and hang out with your friend. Will it ever happen? We'll see, money provided. But I do feel like those people are close enough friends where I could actually get on a plane and go see them. Like I've done that with other YouTubers, like gone on a plane and gotten to see them. Gotten to see them. Like you can make friends through online too, which I think is valid in and of itself, especially like in those weird seasons where you're not meeting anybody in real life and you feel lonely. Don't just resign yourself to feeling lonely forever. Like try the internet. Like I'm serious. Like it can really fill a void. I think too, as you're pursuing friends, something I want to touch on is like not everyone needs to know your deep dark secrets immediately in order to be your friend. I go even a couple of years with people before I tell them like my full story. And it's not like a punishment thing. It's just, we're out having fun with the kids. It's not the right time to me to go into detail about this story. I think that building part of a friendship is really important, where you're building the warmth, you're building like support for the here now, and maybe they'll get to learn about the past or things that affect you or your deeper thoughts or whatever as you continue. But don't just toss that out at people you just met, because maybe you'll be met with like, you don't know this person. Maybe they'll give you a bad reaction and then you'll be a little traumatized and won't try to make friends again, right? Like everything's a timing thing, and make sure you're timing things appropriately with a correct level of intimacy. You can create more intimacy with friends by telling them more about yourself, but it's important to like take things slow so you don't overwhelm people. I think sometimes people can feel kind of uncomfortable when new acquaintances are telling them like every secret, like that oversharing, love bombing kind of vibe. I think if you want to build friendships that last a lifetime, or a longer period than a year, it's important to not go too hot and heavy, like a romantic relationship. Honestly, like take things slow with people, get to know them. Not everything has to be this super passionate, oh my like they just get my energy so up, or I just feel like so wild and free with them. I think sometimes those friendships, we can idealize them in our minds, but the best friendships are the ones that are more slow and steady. Next, I want to briefly touch on the fact that like just because you make a friend doesn't mean you need to keep them forever. Sometimes friendships can sour, sometimes people can sour, and it's not because they're going through a hard time in their life or something like that. It can just be like they're not there for you the way that you are for them, or you're going through a hard season and they ghost you. Maybe they can suddenly like turn on you, or they can make you really uncomfortable, or they can go down some sort of rabbit hole that you're not ready to go down with them, and they can make it their whole personality. Like, I'm just trying to come up with ideas. Or they can hurt you or betray you. I think forgiveness is important, and not holding on to baggage and stuff, but don't just like be so loyal, ride or die, that you're like miserable. Like you feel like you have one friend and you're miserable when you spend time with them. That's no way to live. Like, I think sometimes people can be too loyal, where instead of like opening up their life and their mindset to other people and other friends, they're like really ride or die. Do some housekeeping with yourself. Journal. Like, think about how your friendships are going. Think about people who make you feel great, people who make you feel terrible, and maybe spend less time with the people who make you feel terrible. Remember, when you're making friends, a lot of it is trial and error, and you need to like put yourself out there so you can even just learn. Like, I have tried with friends and it doesn't go anywhere, and then I learn. Like, I catalog that into my mind. I'm like, okay, this didn't work, maybe because of these reasons, who knows, but I'm gonna try with somebody else. The thing that I think sets me apart from other people is that I just love hanging out with other girls and women so much that like where there's a will, there's a way. Like, I say I didn't have friends for that first chunk of YouTube. I did. They were just all long distance online friendships or from my past. But I love friendships so much that even when I've been burned or betrayed, I keep trying with other people. And I've had such amazing results too by like keeping my mind open and like giving people a chance who maybe like even other people don't give a chance to. I've met a lot of women like through church or other things who maybe they don't have a lot of friends, or my other friends don't really like hang out with them. But I go off on my own and I befriend that girl and I get to know her, because I also don't think like all your friends need to overlap. I think even if they know each other, some people just don't click. So I'm also fine with hanging out one-on-one with someone who like maybe doesn't want to be part of the bigger group, but also keeping it open. Like, a big way too I make a lot of friends is by having big open play dates. So like, you are gonna do something and you invite a bunch of people, and then when you're all there, you like make the rounds, like talk for 10-15 minutes with like one person, move to the next, talk all as a group, talk with her. I never just select one friend and like pair off and like buddy. That's a really destructive behavior that is very immature, and I encourage you to take note when you're doing that, because it's very hurtful to other people, especially in a group setting. I think people feel uncomfortable, so they pair off and buddy and like act like they're having the best time, just them two. But the problem is it prohibits everybody else from getting to know you and that other girl. Like, let's all be a group. But I do think it's okay to like pair off and have like a private convo or like a one-on-one amidst the group. Like, I'm not against that. I just think being too exclusive in groups like that ain't good. So if I have something too where it's like, oh, I want to ask my friend about that thing that's going on in her life, I won't do it in a group setting. I won't even pull her aside in a group setting. I will set up a date for us outside of the group setting to like talk about that thing I want to know about, or tell her that thing I wanted to tell her. It's important to balance like the group dynamic and also know yourself. If you're not good in groups, that's fine. You can still have friends. Try to do those one-on-one things. I have friends who don't like to be in groups, so they only see me one-on-one, and we have the best time. But it's just about like reading the situation and understanding. I think too, if you're trying to search for these people, you're trying to find friends, church, mom's group, fellow things where you meet people your age through your kids, neighbors, people from your past, people from work, people from your husband's work, people's wives from your husband's work, people's wives from your work. Anybody can be a friend. I made friends with the girl who like nursed me back to life after I had my C-section with Troy. Like, anybody can be a friend. It's just about getting their number and taking it to the next level, or like seeing them somehow in some way. Which does bring me to the idea and concept of hospitality. One of the best ways to be a social butterfly is to host, and to host often. And you do not need a big fancy house. Maggie taught me this. Maggie lives in like a cute farmhouse. She herself would say like it's smaller than their old house. And she hosts ginormal parties for all of us friends regularly. And it doesn't matter, like we are all gonna fit in there, we are all gonna have a good time. You don't need like a state-of-the-art hosting kind of setup. You don't need the nicest house, you don't need the nicest living room. All you need is a space for people to gather. And that is like, I think, part of being a villager that can get lost in the sauce with the whole Instagram aesthetic. Like, you don't want to invite people over because your house doesn't look like blah, blah, blah. But then we miss out on the biblical command of community and hospitality. And so also, even if we're thinking of some of the other talks on my channel, like femininity, femininity includes hospitality, warmth, and grace. So as we consider all those concepts together and making friends, leaning into your femininity through hosting, hospitality, warmth, have people over, make them feel welcome, invite them and include them into your life. I think also after you have kids, for me, it made it a lot easier to make friends. But some people go the other way, where they're so about their kids and their husband that they like shut out the world and they don't really do things with other friends. But I think when you have those friends, you kind of need them when you're having kids, especially people who don't have a lot of family. Like, we don't have family in the area, so we lean on friends. That can like make or break sometimes your happiness, even if you're thinking of like friendship from a stay-at-home mom perspective. It's so nice to have that support, and it is worth it. It is worth the duds that come from it. It is worth the rejection or the abandonment or the frustration. And just like understand too, it's a lot easier to make friends with somebody who also wants friends than it is to try to fit into a friend group or something that's already functioning off on its own. When we joined our church, for example, there was a lot of social groups that were clearly defined and like they'd been friends forever. And it kind of felt like a waste of time to bust into those groups. They were friendly and stuff, but I understood, that they maybe weren't looking to add more people to their group. So I joined, and we made our own group with like a bunch of people who were like joining the church, and now we're a group. And something I've actually stood by my entire life, my thing in middle school, there was like this really cliquey group of girls who would they were the cool girls, and they would add somebody on invitation only. But they would also regularly kick a girl out of their cool girl group. And my thing was, whenever a girl got kicked out of that cool girl group, I would make a huge point of like going over and collecting her and bringing her into our group. So we had like the group of my core friends, but then also all these like leftover people who got kicked out of the cool group, and just all these other random kids. And we would like play Foursquare together or kickball and stuff. And like, I was really militant about like being open and having people and supporting people and like making sure people weren't like left on their own. Like I was really hardcore militant about it. Like I've calmed down in adulthood, but I do still have that side of myself where I'm like pretty militant about the underdog, and the people who get left behind. Like my heart like squeezes when I think of those people and I want to include them. And I think also when your eye is focused on those people and not just like the coolest person in the room or the most popular, you can make friends easier because you're just like finding people who also need friends. So remember too, like making friends and being a friend, it's not like this, and even being a social butterfly, like you have to remember, like, what is the end goal here? Like, is the end goal like social dominance or being so popular, so cool? Like that shouldn't be. That's not fulfilling. That won't make you happy, and you're not really going to get genuine support from that. I think the end goal to these pursuit of friendship should be fostering community, bringing more satisfaction to your life, living out a biblical lifestyle of community, being there for people, showing the love of Jesus, just living life, making memories. And like God made friendship, and it's a beautiful part of life. And if you also find yourself like, you know, you've been hurt, so you're kind of like in that mindset of like, I don't need friends. It's kind of like those guys who get like their heart broken by a girl in high school and then they live the rest of their life like, women suck, I don't need a girlfriend. It's like, just know that you might be giving off that energy, hostile energy. The girl who said the thing about me like needing a girl because give off that vibe, she has hostile energy to new friends, and maybe it comes from a hurt in her past. If that's you, like it's important to do the work, like do the internal work so that you don't come across as hostile. I think sometimes you might not even realize how you're coming across to people, and you're like, well, why doesn't anyone like me? But you're like there, like kind of like giving off super hostile, cold energy. Like hold up a mirror to yourself, do some inner work. I have had to do inner work throughout my life. When I started looking around when I was pregnant with Bodhi to make friends, I had to be like, okay, am I being hostile? I kind of was. Like that day when I got invited to that mom's group breakfast thing, and I was like, I don't want to go. Like, why didn't I want to go? I was scared. Like, I was scared to put myself out there. I was scared that I'd get left behind or people would not like me or whatever. But I did it anyways, and it really paid off. So it's okay to have these hurts. It's okay. It's just you have to deal with it so you can move forward and not just live your life like being hostile and like hating people who didn't even do anything for you too. That's kind of like do anything against you. You know, that's kind of my like rule nowadays. It's like I don't hold things against people who weren't like the one who did it, if that makes sense. Like these people didn't hurt me, so why am I like paranoid and hostile and judging them? You know, you have to deal with your baggage and understand where it comes from in order to move forward. Finally, I want to touch on something that maybe I could make a big video on, but that's the idea of people pleasing. People pleasing can sometimes, I think, feel like the answer to how to get everybody to like you. Because if I just make everybody happy, I'll be indispensable and they'll feel great around me and they'll want to include me. And so maybe like I'm going to be hiding my personality and my needs and desires and wants a little bit around these people to like uplift their needs, wants, and desires. But then it means they'll like me so much and I'll have friends. Like that's the mindset. But the thing is, it's fake kind of to be like that. Like in order to get people to like you, you're just going to please them at all costs. That's not a real friend. Like a real friend is a real person. Someone who you know their actual likes and dislikes. They don't just agree with you about everything. They're not just there to like please you. And I actually think when we're too much of a people pleaser, it can turn off people from wanting to be our friend because they sense that we're just trying to make them happy. And I also think when you dig deeper into the idea of people pleasing, it's actually kind of selfish because instead of actually like being a genuine friend to somebody, you're just trying to make them happy to get what you want, which is them being like liking you, them wanting to be around you. You know, it's almost manipulative. So something I would encourage if you struggle with people pleasing, perfectionism, trying to get everyone to like you. I struggled with this in college and I changed my life when I changed this stuff. I just like stopped trying to get people to like me. And it's like, if you struggle with this, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't struggle with it, it's probably sounds really weird. But when you stop trying to get people to like you, it means that you're not like angling yourself in a way to align with them at all costs. You're not trying to get them to laugh at every single thing you say. You're not trying to be like love bombing them essentially. And like we all know love bombing is associated with narcissists, right? Like narcissists who meet you and they want you to like them right away, so they just love bomb you. Like, don't love bomb potential friends. They can sniff it out a mile away. I hate being love bombed. I hate it because then I feel like, what do you want from me? Why are you being like this? Like, I like my friends who like show up, they are who they are, and like I get to know them as a fully realized person. They get to know me as a fully realized person. That's why I also think it's important not to just only allow yourself to hang out with people who totally agree with everything you think about the world, because then you miss out on real genuine friendship and other perspectives. Like, one of the beautiful things about friendships is that you can be surrounded by lots of different POVs to give you different ways to view the world. So with people pleasing, it's hard to resist the urge, but figure out too when you're just bending over backwards for somebody and they're not even like, they don't even view you as a real friend. Like, you're just putting yourself out there, stretching and grooving and jiving to get them to like you, and they don't even think about you, you know? Part of saying no to people pleasing is growing self-esteem and self-respect, where you would be fine if you had no friends. And that's what I want to like kind of conclude this video with. If you think you need to perform or put on an act in order to collect friends, you're going to exhaust yourself. And they're also not real friends because they don't know you and they didn't choose to be around you because they like you. They just felt good about how you made them feel, right? That's how bad romantic relationships can start too. And then, you know, marriage happens 20 years later, the wife feels exhausted and she thinks about why. And it's like, I always had to perform, you know? Don't perform for your friends. Put your energy into doing your best and doing your best by your friends, but it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to say no. Like, remember, even ornery and bratty people have friends. They're not people pleasers and people love them. Why? We love a real person. Just remember, it's better to have like no friends than to have a bunch of cruddy friends who make you feel bad about yourself. So even though this video is about how to make friends, I should probably title it How to Make Good Friends, because anyone can make a friend. Anyone can make a bad friend. I could go out into the street and make a bad friend today, but can you make a good friend? Can you find someone who genuinely cares about you, that you genuinely care about them? And again, it's not about quantity over quality. I just happen to be at a place where there's like a lot of cool people around here, so I got a lot of friends. But I've been in a drought before. It's better to have no friends than a bunch of cruddy ones who make you feel awful about yourself. Like people who make passive aggressive comments, like you invite them over and they're like, oh wow, this must have been an expensive purchase. What? Oh, you really let your kids run wild and free. Tone is everything. If tone goes over your head, maybe ask your husband, hey, my friend said this, what do you think? I've had that before. I said, hey, my friend said this, what do you think? And my husband's like, that's really offensive. And it made me think of things differently, you know? I always like to see the best in people, especially my friends. I have a really hard time facing when people are not great, especially people I care about. And so having someone who has your back, like your husband or your mom or sister or somebody, to kind of bounce things off of, not in a gossipy way, but just to make sure that you're being protected from bad friendships is good. And sniff things out and realize, like, just because you hung out a few times doesn't mean you have to keep going with it. It's fine. It's fine to like pull back from bad friendships. And again, I would also balance this with saying, don't be paranoid. Don't just assume all women out there are terrible and are going to hurt you, because that's kind of like that incel mindset I was discussing earlier. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you guys are interested in more of this kind of content, I have a couple videos on self-esteem that I think would be helpful, and I also have at least one other video about friendships, and I have a video about toxic relationships. The advice is 4+ years old though, so who knows what I said in those videos. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's not. But I think it would be helpful if you guys would write in the comment section some of the quirky ways maybe you've met friends in your life, some of the lessons you've learned making friends as an adult, not a child. And just creative ways we can approach friendship in a balanced and mindful way. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. It does help other people find my channel. But in general, I hope you guys have a wonderfully blessed and friendship-filled week, my beautiful sisters.